A successful event is not defined by how well it looks, it is defined by how well it runs. And a seamless event is because of structure, coordination, and execution. Welcome back to the Art of Virtual Assisting with me, Stephanie Lopepe, your host and the founder of Virtually Steph. I'm so excited for this conversation. And before we start, I would ask you to please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future great conversation, and share the channel to someone who you believe could benefit from the knowledge being shared here. All right, so I've been getting a lot of inquiries concerning event coordination, whether it's event management, whether it's support. And I've realized, okay, I think we're in the season where a lot of people are planning forward and they would like proper systems and structure to make sure that their events is run properly. So now I decided to do a two-part series, and we're gonna call this series the Art of Event Coordinating. All right, so first, let's start with one of the first things you do when you're about to organize an event or you are thinking of having an event. The first thing you need to look at is your event management and project management, right? Because these things are the foundation to a successful event, right? Before you look for a venue, before you figure out who your guest is going to be, before you figure out who your audience is going to be, you need to make sure that your foundation is set. You have somebody in charge of project management, you have somebody in charge of event management, and sometimes those roles intersect. All right. So when we are in that section, we are doing a lot of timeline allocation, right? So this, you would do it before the event, during the event, and post the event, right? So you need to have your timeline of when will this happen, when will this happen, what are the deadlines, and give yourself enough room so that nothing feels rushed, right? We can tell when we are at an event and everything is rushed. So you want to avoid that, right? You also want to have a lot of task allocation and tracking, right? So it is pointless for you to say this person is in charge of X and Y, but you don't track whether X and Y is completed. So you can allocate, you can delegate, but you must have a software or a platform where you can keep track. So when something is done, it needs to be updated. So you could either use Google, right? You can use a lot of the features that Google Workspace has. You can use Notion. You can use even just like your pen and paper, right? You just need to make sure that you've allocated a specific task and you are tracking whether that task is being done, and you are tracking against the timeline or the deadline you give that specific task. Okay, cool. Now, you also need to figure out how to manage your moving parts smoothly, right? So in event management and project management, there's so much happening concerning your events, right? Whether it's vendors, whether it's guests, whether it's you, the internal team, whether it's you, the host, right? There's so many moving parts to make a successful event. You need to be able to know what is happening, and you need to be able to coordinate all of that smoothly. And another thing that I would encourage is that when you have your project manager, your event manager, everything works well and you have little things that fall through the cracks. I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, all these things, everything will be smoothly. No. A lot of the time something will fall off, but it won't be too bad because there are people allocated to a specific task. There's tracking happening. There's status updates. There is somebody supervising the whole process, right? So things should go well. So without project management, things become more reactive than proactive, right? So you are reacting to things falling apart because you lack project management. So I will encourage you start with that first. Second thing that we would focus on when you are doing events is stakeholder and communications management, right? So communications is very important, right? So people need to be informed of what's happening. So those stakeholders will include the clients, it will include your internal team, it will include your vendors, it includes partners. All those various stakeholders need to have some form of communication happening from you to them, from each other, or with other external parties. So you need to manage that very well. Right? So this means that you need to have clear communication channels, right? You can decide, are you using emails? I would encourage at all times to have paper trail. You must have paper trail at all times, right? So paper trail will include your emails, right? So even if somebody calls you for something, you can email them back and be like, hey, as per our conversation X and Y, right? This helps you stay on track, and also this helps you hold somebody accountable when there's paper trail. Sometimes we forget what we said, sometimes we don't know what we said, right? So you are wanting to make sure that you have something in writing to hold somebody accountable. So paper trail is very important, right? So in your clear communication channel, we say email, you can do text, you can do Slack, you can even share your Notion page with somebody else. And for others where things are easier to do on WhatsApp, you can do that too, right? But you must have a communication channel for you, the internal team, you and the internal team, you and the service providers, and you and the contact person. So the project manager or the event manager, right? You don't necessarily want to have a communication channel where everyone is in it, right? You can have one where you send a comms, right? But sometimes people in your internal team want to chat to you without the vendors or the partners knowing what they are talking about, right? So just have to manage that, right? In those communication channels, you have regular updates. I would encourage, depending on how far an event is, you could have weekly updates, you could have daily updates. My encouragement is maybe a twice a week update. An update maybe on a Monday to say this is what is happening on for the week, and another update maybe on Thursday or Friday to say this is what was done, right? So that if something needs to be fixed, you have enough time to do so, right? And when you have clear communication, right, in terms of expectation, in terms of the channel, in terms of regular updates, you get to manage expectation, right, with all parties involved. So that is something I encouraged you to do. And my thing for this is that most event stress happen because there's lack of communication, right? Not because there's so much work to do. Nobody's communicating. When people have questions, they're afraid to ask, or they think they know what they are doing, right? So when you have clear lines of communication between you and your various stakeholders, you will reduce the amount of stress. You will not like erase all the stress, you just reduce the amount of stress. All right. Number 3, this has to do with speaker and partner coordination, right? So here you have somebody dedicated to manage speaker schedules, expectations, and deliverables, right? So if you are hosting a big event, I think if big or small, it doesn't matter, the principles remain the same, right? You need to have somebody who communicates to the speakers, right? This is our vision, this is what we need from you. And then whether the speaker says yes or no, you then move up and be like, these are the expectations, these are the deliverables. You could want from the speakers maybe their profiles, maybe their high res resolution pictures, maybe X and Y. You can only do that if it's clearly communicated to the speaker, right? Are you planning an event and you are currently feeling overwhelmed with all the communications, the admin, the vendors, the timelines, the deadlines, and you currently don't need more ideas? you need event management support. So here at Virtually Steph, I support clients with all of their event coordinating needs, right? So if you need operational need, you need seamless execution, you need structured planning, please make use of my services. Click the link below and let's connect. I look forward to seeing you soon. So I would ask you to just have somebody who manages that, and preferably one person, not multiple people. Remember, the speakers are there to share value, right? So you don't want any confusion happen. So if one person is in charge to coordinate with the speakers, it makes things a lot easier, right? You also need to align the messaging and the program, right? So obviously you give a speaker a brief, right? But sometimes you want to have a call, or you want them to share the notes, be like, hey, this is what we need from you. And then the speaker will be like, okay, I'm thinking of talking about this, etc. Then you can be like, it's not aligned with what we want to communicate. Then the speaker adjusts with their presentation, right? Or their keynote. You always give a speaker a guideline, unless you have this event where you just trust the speaker to do what they need to do. But if there's a theme, if there's a specific message you want communicated, you have to coordinate with the speaker. This also includes you coordinating with the program. Your different partners need to know what is happening on the day. I like to say they need to know what is happening pre the day. Maybe you want them to share marketing materials on the day, the actual event, and post. Maybe you want feedback from them, right? So all of that needs to be communicated. This will also include you coordinating arrival time, coordinate any dry runs like testing of sound test, whether it's presentation, you want to know if everything is working on the tech side, and you also want to go through the program with them. So this is very important. Remember, your speakers and your partners are part of the experience. So if the comms is not well, it's going to be an issue. All right, let's go to the last one for the day, is documentation and admin coordinating, right? So yes, you may have your friends be part of your event, but I'll encourage you have contracts, right? Because some people will be like, yeah, I'm coming. They'll share profile, they'll show what. The day of the event comes, they are nowhere to be seen. They switch off their phones, they come late, or whatever it is. Like, guys, I promise you, these things happen. Now you have to think on your feet. So in order for you to protect yourself from them, you need to have some form of written agreement, right? Whether it's contract, whether it's an agreement on email, right? So you need to have paper trail that this person said yes to come to the event and they failed on their commitment, right? You need to have run sheets, right? So you need to have a program where everybody knows where they are supposed to be, right? Whether it's the internal team, whether it's your external parties, whether it's the speakers, whether it's the audience, you need to have in writing on paper what is supposed to happen at all times, right? You need to have your guest list. This is all part of admin, right? You need to have your guest list. You need to have somebody who's checking who's here, who's on their way, who's not coming, right? You need to have your vendor details on hand, right? Because sometimes maybe you need to make a call. Hey, this is missing. Can you please bring it for us? Or maybe you may ask, hey, our current vendor is not here. Can you suggest somebody else? Can you refer to someone who has a quick turnaround time, right? You can do that. You also need to have timelines of what is going on, right? So these are all part of admin, right? And your event will not function if your admin is not good. So all these things I've listed, you need it for your event, right? And you keep everything on paper so people don't say, I forgot. All right. So it is time for our virtual assistant insight segment. And today's question is, what is the difference between an event planner and an event coordinator? Listen, I love this question because we always confuse the two, as one person can play both roles. So, an event planner focuses on the concept, right? So they focus on the ideation, the vision, the theme, the design, the direction, the creative direction. That's what an event planner does. So we can even say the event planner plans the event, right? Or the event planner designs the event. Yeah, I like that better. The event planner designs the event. However, the event coordinator focuses on the execution of that design, right? So they focus on the timelines, the logistics, the communication, the vendors, or the various stakeholders that are involved in this event. The event coordinator focuses on that, right? So they deliver the design, so they deliver the event. So that's the difference between the two. A lot of the times, one person can do both roles. However, when you have like a summit or a huge conference, you want to have separate people execute those roles so that it's not too overwhelming, right? So that is the difference between the two. So, in conclusion, for today's part one, all right, is that the events don't succeed because things are looking pretty. They succeed because there's structure, there's execution, and there's a system that helps all those parts that you want done well come together. So, my encouragement for you is that get somebody who's an expert in event planning and event execution, event coordinating, so that you have less stress and you focus more on the vision and hosting the event. Let somebody else focus on actually putting the event together. All right, that is it for today. I would encourage you again to subscribe, like, comment, and share, and I'll see you for part two.